I've analysed the 12 new subclasses coming in patch 8 of Baldur's Gate 3. Most people would assume if Larian have taken the time to make these subclasses, they would be strong, or at least have fun abilities. Honestly, some of them are awesome, and some of them are completely worthless. So I went through them, one by one, to see which ones would be the best and which ones you shouldn't waste your time on. Normally I would look at them from a mathematically correct point of view, but some of these subclasses are so obviously terrible, we can just talk about them instead. To begin with, I wanted to look at how good they were early, mid and late game, and then what level you want to take them to before you multi-class out of them. For example, the Barbarian's Giant is okay early game, is good mid and late game, and you should take it to either level 6 or level 10 before you multi-class out of Giant. I then looked at it across all the different subclasses, so here's the table for that. Overall, you can see the different levels that I associated with all the different subclasses here, and whether they're good, okay, bad, or somewhere in between. Let's start off with Giant. So at level 3 you get Giant's Rage. Rage damage is doubled when using thrown weapons. At level 5 you get Boots of the Giant. This is an unarmed kick attack that shoves the target back and can affect targets of 2 times the normal max weight. As this is an unarmed kick, Tavern Brawler, items such as Gloves of Crushing, and multi-classing into Monk will all increase the damage of the unarmed attack. At level 6 you get Elemental Cleaver. Add an elemental effect of 1d6 extra damage to your weapon, and it gives it the thrown weapon property, and it allows it to reappear in your hand after you throw it, so you can make any weapon the ultimate thrown weapon. At level 10 you get Mighty Impel, so you can use your bonus action as a throw. So my first thought was, how does Giant compare to Berserker, as they're both barbarian throwing classes? Obviously one has to do more damage, so let's find out which one it is. I did some mathematically correct calculations, and overall Giant loses early, but absolutely wins in the mid to late game. This is because in early game, Berserker has some extra attacks per turn and that just makes it do more damage. It's as simple as that. But in the mid game, Giant wins because it's able to use any weapon as a thrown weapon instead of a specific throwing weapon, like Returning Pike, and they get the elemental buff. Although they are doing less attacks per turn, they just do more damage on all of their attacks. Then in the late game, both of them can use the same throwing weapons or any weapon, just the best weapon, it doesn't matter. But because both of them have 3 attacks and Giant gets more damage, Giant wins overall. Now we're moving on to Bladesinging. This is the Wizard subclass, and then we'll go on to all the other subclasses after that. At level 2 you get Blade Song, so you cast this and you get proficiency bonus added to your AC, con saving throws, and increased movement speed. You get 2 to 4 charges of this per long rest, so you get better concentration, it will last 10 turns, and it's got the downside of restricting your weapon and armour you can use. Again, at level 2 you get Blade Song Climax. So casting a level 1 spell plus during Blade Song adds a charge to your Blade Song Climax. Each charge you add adds 1d6 damage and 1d6 healing to the climax. It appears to heal and damage all enemies and all friendlies in range when you end your Blade Song and climax at the end. At level 6 you get extra attack, and at level 10 you get Song of Defense. You can reduce damage taken by 5 times the number of spell slots that you use to reduce this damage, so this is just spell slots that go into reducing this damage times 5. As Climax's damage and healing heavily relies on the number of targets, it's good to know what number of targets makes it more effective to use. Activating Bladesinging doesn't appear to cost an action, but activating Climax does use a bonus action. So this is 1d6 times the number of targets times the casts to get the total damage, so overall 3.5 times targets. I've assumed 3, 4 or 5 casts in 3 rounds, as that's the standard fighting time. This is the total damage that your Bladesinging will get off in that fight if you can hit the number of targets and use that many casts. This is not the damage you would do to a single person, this is the total damage you would do if you were to hit 5 people over 5 casts. As you can see, the damage ramps up pretty decently, and if you can get it off, this could be a complete game changer when you climax. Now we're moving on to the Bard subclass, Glamour. At level 3 you get Mantle of Inspiration, so you can give 2 allies plus 5 temp HP, and if an attacker hits them with a melee attack, the attacker is charmed. At level 6, Mantle of Majesty Command. Once per long rest you can use Command on an enemy, charmed targets will automatically fail their saving throw. The temp HP also increases from 5 to 8 and the targets from 2 to 3. At level 10 you get the temp HP increasing from 8 to 11 and the targets from 3 to 4. There's nothing really to calculate here, it's just bad. Honestly, I could kinda see a full melee team comp with the Glamour as their backline, and then you're going to have a higher chance of having the melee thing actually proc and charm someone. But in all honesty, I think you have to build into it too hard for something that's pretty useless overall. Sure, if you can think of a way to use it, let me know in the comments below, but in all honesty, I think it's useless. Next up is a really interesting one, Death Domain. At level 1, you get Reaper. Single target necromancy cantrips can now be used on 2 targets. You also learn Bone Chill, False Life and Ray of Sickness. Therefore, you're just doubling your number of spells, it's great. At level 2 you get Channel Divinity, Touch of Death. On a melee attack hit you can use your Channel Divinity to deal 5 plus 2 times your Cleric level in necrotic damage. At level 6 you get Inescapable Destruction. Spells ignore resistance to necrotic damage. At level 8 you get Divine Strike, Necrotic. Once per turn, your melee attacks deal 1d8 necrotic damage. At level 3, 5, 7 and 9 you gain more spells from this domain, so you get the 2 times necrotic spells, which is really strong, but after level 1 the increases are kinda lackluster and the divinity is a little weak. The 1d8 is nice, but it's only 1 per turn, and it's kinda late for that. So overall, I think it's not that great, but it's pretty cool at level 1. This is a new Druid subclass, Circle of Stars. At level 2 you get Starry Form, and you can either go on Archer, Chalice, or Dragon. Archer gets access to Luminous Arrow, which is a 1d8 plus Wisdom bonus action attack. Chalice grants healing of 1d8 plus Wisdom, and the Dazzling Breath is a 2d6 plus Wisdom cone using a bonus action. Your concentration is also harder to break when in these forms. Also at level 2 you get Star Map, so you can essentially cast Guiding Bolt for free, and this is 2 times per long rest. At level 5 you get extra star maps, so 3 times per long rest. At level 6 you get Cosmic Omen, so you can increase an ally or decrease an enemy roll. At level 9 you get additional star maps, up to 4, and additional omens, 4 per long rest as well. At level 10 you get the improved Starry Forms, so that's plus 1d8 damage plus 1d8 healing, or you gain the ability to fly. Dazzling Breath 2d6 plus Wisdom is amazing early. Since it's a cone, you're affecting lots and lots of targets compared to the Luminous Arrow single target. Star Map is nice and can support friendly units, but it's not amazing. After level 2, the increases are a little lackluster. Extra Guiding Bolts are okay, Omens are also okay, and at least you get multiple of them per long rest. But the form increases by level 10 are kind of weak. Next up is the fighter subclass Arcane Archer. At level 3 you get Arcane Shots, so you get 4 ammo per short or long rest. You can choose 3 different ammo types that you can swap at level up, and here are some of the types of ammo. So Bursting is an AoE explosion of extra 2d6 damage, including the attack that you get as well. So the arrow does damage, then an explosion of 2d6. Grasping deals 2d6 extra poison damage, and then will reduce the creature's movement speed, and if it does move, it'll take an additional 2d6 piercing damage. The piercing arrow damages all enemies in a line, dealing extra damage, and finally, there's ones that are just extra damage of 2d6 and a status effect. This could be fire or ice, etc. At level 7 you get Magic Arrow, so all your attacks are classed as magical and will go through any sort of piercing resistance as they are magical. At level 7 you also get Curving Shot. If you miss a magical ranged attack, you can use your bonus action to redirect the attack to the next closest target. Finally, at level 7 and level 10 you gain additional Arcane Arrow ammos, as well as being able to choose additional types of shot. So what I like about the Arcane Archer is you get lots of different arcane shots to choose from. Getting an additional 2d6 is pretty powerful, and you're getting status effects or AoE damage from it. The utility and the customizability of this class is insane. Magical attacks, highly useful, and Curving Shot is also great if you don't want to go the dual-wielding hand crossbow archer. Hand crossbows probably still wins overall in the damage, but you can ensure that your Arcane Shot will hit if you use a normal bow, and then use your bonus action to make sure that that Arcane Shot will hit. Post level 7, the upgrades are kinda lackluster, so it'd probably be better to multi-class. Next up is definitely the funniest subclass in patch 8, the Drunken Master for Monk. So level 3 you get Cheeky Tipple. Drink once per day to get half of your key points back, and you have no negatives of being drunk. At level 4, you get Intoxicating Strike, so every time you hit a target creature, you may intoxicate them. At level 6, you can redirect attack. If you miss an attack, you can spend 1 key point to hit another target. At level 7, you get Life of the Party. Each time Intoxicating Strikes hits, you gain +1 AC and +1 to attacks, and this will stack for every single person you've got intoxicated. At level 9, you get Sobering Realization. Hit a drunk target, sobering them up, dealing an extra 1d8 plus Wisdom psychic damage. But you lose the stack of Life of the Party that you would have had since they're no longer drunk. At level 10, you get Drunkard's Luck. You can spend 2 key points to turn a disadvantage into a normal roll. So as much as I love the concept of being a Drunken Master Monk, getting half of your key points back when you could just short rest to get them back is kind of pointless. And it is nice to not be drunk at least. The possibility of making enemies drunk makes it a lot weaker than it should be. If you just made them drunk when you hit them, or have a really high % chance to make them drunk when you hit them, it would be great, but it's the possibility to do it, making it a lot weaker in theory. Redirect attacks is really nice, and it's relatively cheap on the key points, and Life of the Party is really good. Being able to just stack it up and scale really hard in a fight, because everyone knows monks just punch everyone anyway, you're going to be chilling. You will not take any damage, you will keep hitting people. You will be the life of the party. Sobering Realization is an okay finisher, but otherwise, because you're losing your stacks, it kind of defeats the purpose. So if you're finishing them, you're going to lose a stack anyway, so you might as well use Sobering Realization. Other than that, it's not that great, but it's okay. And finally, the luck could be clutch, but overall isn't an amazing use of your key points. is 2 key points for 1 disadvantage to normal. It's not even disadvantage to advantage, it's just, it feels really lackluster for it being a level 11 feature. The next subclass is Oath of the Crown for Paladin. At level 3 you get Righteous Clarity, you can give yourself or an ally additional proficiency bonus to attack rolls. This lasts 10 turns and uses up your Oath charge. Also at level 3 you get Champion Challenge, you taunt enemies around you to attack you or otherwise attack friendly units at disadvantage using up your Oath charge. At level 3 you get Turn the Tide, heal all nearby allies for 1d6 plus charisma, also using up your Oath charge. At level 7 you get Divine Allegiance, if an ally in melee range takes damage you can use your reaction to take the damage instead of them. At level 3, 5 and 9 you gain additional spells from your Oath. Adding the extra proficiency bonus to attack rolls is really nice, although it's only 1 fight per long rest. It's really cool to be able to force enemies to attack you, but overall it's nowhere near worth an Oath charge. And I like AoE healing, but again, choosing between Turn the Tide or Righteous Clarity is the only option. The AoE healing is only really useful if everyone has taken some damage, but really your frontliners are going to be taking the damage anyway, so it doesn't really matter. If you're building an armor to reduce some damage, Divine Allegiance might be useful. Or if you have someone to cast resistance on you, but otherwise it's not worth leveling up to level 7 just for Divine Allegiance. And then since you don't get anything after that except your level 9 additional spell from your Oath, it's honestly not that great of a subclass. The new Ranger subclass is Swarmkeeper. At level 3 you get Gathered Swarm, so you can either have a swarm of bees, jellyfish, or moths. The bees deal piercing damage of 1d6 and push enemies away, or you can teleport player. The jellyfish deal 1d6 damage, shock status effect applied to the enemy, or teleport player, or the moths use psychic damage of 1d6, can blind the enemy, or teleport player. So all of these apply that you do your attack and then your swarm will do an attack on that target. You can then choose if it's the damage, the status effect, or to teleport your player when doing that attack. At level 3 you get Praise Scent, so your swarm deals an additional 1d6 damage against Hunter's Marks targets. And at level 7 you get Riding Tide, gain the ability to fly on your swarm. You can do this 3 times per long rest, or when you get to level 9 you can do it 4 times. Level 11 you get Mighty Swarm, which just generally increases the swarm, increased damage and increased abilities. Level 3, 5 and 9 you gain new spells. The plus 1d6 damage per turn is okay, and it's consistent, and the teleportation is great for utility and just being able to move around the fight while being at range. The extra Hunter's Mark damage is great, an additional 1d6 on top of the 1d6 of Hunter's Mark, that is going to start racking up the damage really quickly. Riding Tide is a little redundant, but it's still cool. Slightly better if you're not going to go the dual hand crossbows as you use a bonus action to cast this. So if you're going to go some normal ranged bow and then you can teleport using that, it's okay, but it's not great. The increases at level 11, they are not good. They are not worth going, and instead you should be multi-classing at 3 or 7. The new rogue subclass is Swashbuckler. At level 3 you get Fancy Footwork. If you make a melee attack against a target, the target cannot make an opportunity attack against you for the rest of your turn. At level 3 you get Rakish Audacity, that's a +2 to your initiative rolls, and you no longer need advantage for melee sneak attacks as long as you don't have disadvantage. At level 4 you get some Dirty Tricks. These are bonus action options, so Flick of the Wrist gives you Disarm, Sand Toss gives you a Blind, and Vicious Mockery as a standard cantrip but as a bonus action. At level 9 you get Panache, so that gives a target disadvantage on attack rolls, and they are unable to make opportunity attacks except against you. Now of course, if you hit them with a Fancy Footwork, you can still leave the opportunity attack range because you don't do it for the rest of your turn. At level 5 and 9 you gain 3 and 4 initiative respectively. The hit and run specialist of the subclasses is definitely Swashbuckler. It's great for picking off any sort of side targets because you don't need someone next to them. You can run up to them, sneak attack melee at them, and then run away. If you're not dual wielding, the utility is nice, but honestly it's not amazing. But at least it gives you a reason to not dual wield. But past level 4 the subclass is quite lackluster. Having to level up to level 9 for Panache when it's not really that great just seems like a waste of levels. The new Sorcerer subclass is Shadow Magic. At level 1 you get Strength of the Grave. After reaching 0 HP you go back up to 1 HP instead of going down. This can happen once per long rest. Also at level 1 you get Eyes of the Dark. You can see in the dark, and this does include your own magical dark. At level 3 you can cast darkness normally or use 2 sorcerer points to cast it. Level 6, you get Hound of the Third Omen. This is a bonus action and costs 3 sorcery points to summon a Shadow Dog. There's a chance to apply an omen to a target, and if the target is hit by that element, regain 1 sorcerer point. If the dog is hit by a non-radiant melee attack, summon an additional dog. Level 9, you get Shadow Walk, so you can teleport into a light or heavily obscured area, and the next spell will be a distant spell at no extra cost of sorcerer points. Reviving is obviously fun. Seeing in the dark can be abused. Using sorcerer points to cast darkness isn't great until level 6+, but the Hound is amazing. Being able to generate Sorcerer points and additional dogs is so strong. You are going to become the best Sorcerer, flinging out empowered spells left, right and centre. The bonus action to teleport plus a free distance spell is okay, but it is very late game, making it sort of less useful. But in all honesty, it doesn't matter, because once you hit level 6, you will be pinging off spells doing max damage. The new Warlock subclass is Hexblade. At level 1 you gain Hex Warrior, which gives you proficiency in medium armour, shields and martial weapons, as well as being able to bind hex weapons. Also at level 1 you gain Hexblade's Curse, so damage rolls gain proficiency bonus to them, as well as critical hit threshold being reduced by 1. If the curse target dies, gain Warlock level plus Charisma, HP, and this can be applied randomly on a weapon hit, or once per short rest as a bonus action. At level 5 you gain an extra attack, and at level 6 you gain a Cursed Spectre. Raise a corpse into a Spectre, and the size of the corpse determines the size of the Spectre. They're all great summons, so it doesn't matter if you're summoning a small one, medium one or large one, but the large one is better than the medium and better than the small. At level 10, Hexblade's curse targets attack you, there's a 50% chance to just nullify their damage with a reaction. The Hex weapon is always great, extra armour etc. is a nice to have. Hexblade Curse is really nice, using a short rest bonus action for it is okay, but getting it randomly is great for killing larger targets. The Spectres are a nice summon, but you need to just take a little care of what size of corpse you cast it on, but like I said, it doesn't matter too much. There's a 50% chance to nullify the attack is really nice, since you'll be frontlining, but this does require you to go to level 10. In my opinion, you shouldn't really be taking this class to level 10, you should be multi-classing at some point. Finally, here's the table of all the classes again, so you can just see how I think they are early, mid and late game, and what level you should be multi-classing them at. Thank you very much for watching, have a wonderful day, bye bye.